What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Anti-Gravity Group podcast. Well, sort of, anyway. My name is Braden Carlson, and I just wanted to tell you about my new podcast with Joe Barnard from BPS.space called Space for Improvement. I'm going to go ahead and throw 15 minutes of the first episode about a failed space startup company called Space Ride in here, and just let you guys feel it out and see if it's something you might be interested in. If you want to listen to more Space for Improvement, the link will be in the description. You can find it on YouTube, wherever you're listening to this podcast, or just about anywhere you find podcasts. New episodes will be dropping every Wednesday with topics ranging from crazy space history to more failed space companies and just about anything else we can think of. So, if you're into space history and space exploration and rocketry, you'll probably like it. And something tells me, since you're listening to the Anti-Gravity Group podcast, you probably are into at least one of those fields. Without further ado, here's Space for Improvement, Mr. Joe Barnard.
Open it up, man.
Putting a rocket in space is hard.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
There has to be a better way.
I love it.
And it's so expensive, Joe.
Well, that's I've always said that.
Yeah. You've lived that. You're working on a space shot. Well, we maybe should have addressed that in the beginning, huh?
Oh, whatever, dude. I think this whole thing's going to be a train wreck until we figure out what it is.
That's exactly right. And it's expensive.
Braden, can I say something? I think you and we might have a little space for improvement.
Oh, where's this? See, now we need the soundboard.
Dude, where's the applause?
Oh, you're right. We'll work on that later. We'll fix it in post. There has to be a better way, Joe. The founders of Space Ride agreed. Founded in 2018 and headquartered in Richmond Hill, Ontario, Canada, the company set its sights on providing the most cost-effective way to put a payload like a CanSat into space for both orbital and suborbital missions. As of February 2020, Space Ride claimed to offer the lowest cost per kilogram of payload of any launch provider. Is any of this sounding like any company you've ever heard of before?
This sounds like a lot of companies that I've heard of, none of who have delivered on that claim. I think there's even an argument that SpaceX has not necessarily delivered on the dramatic, order of magnitude reduction in launch costs. Instead, what they've done is like a little reduction and then funnel all of the cash into Starlink.
Yeah.
Which, go off, whatever. It's your prerogative. But yeah, that sounds like every space startup so far. I'm curious, do they give a number for cost per kilogram?
They do. Thank you for that. That was actually the perfect segue.
Is it something
like
absurd,
looking at the script.
Like a cent?
No. See, they're at least based in reality somewhat. They had a flat fee plan of $250,000 for a payload up to 25 kilograms. There's additional $10,000 per kilogram with a max payload mass of 150.
Okay. That's not, we're within the real world.
Right.
Yeah.
And they actually also had a max launch price of $1 million. So I didn't actually do the math there, but that seems generous, probably.
It's within 10x what an Electron is. An Electron, I don't believe it, but it's not like they're, properly crazy.
Right.
They're just regular.
Yeah, like 1 penny. That would be out of control. But I had the same assumption, and then I saw that price, and I was like, oh, okay. So, there was some reality here.
Yeah.
But, unlike a lot of companies, they didn't claim to have reinvented the wheel or the rocket, so to speak. There was no, look at this fancy technology we've come up with. This is brand new. This is all going to work. In fact, it actually took it back quite a few years. The launch procedure for Space Ride, and I'm wondering, Joe, if you're going to start to think this is familiar. Its launch procedure consisted of dropping a rocket from a quadcopter-like stabilized platform to ensure the rocket could be precisely aimed in the exact desired direction and angle of attack.
Pause. Dude, we need a soundboard so bad, it's crazy. Okay, so am I correct in assuming that the drone is aiming... the UAV is aiming this thing, and then it launches off the UAV?
So the UAV is stabilized in order to provide optimal direction. Then the rocket is dropped from it and thrust vector controlled from there.
Okay. All right. That we're still within the realm of possibility. It's
Right.
absurd.
Yeah.
But it could happen.
Here's the thing. That UAV doesn't provide any lift.
Pause. Right, but like it like lifts itself up, right?
No. All right, this is where the fun part is. I realize I prefaced that, and I'm like, this is old technology. And then it sort of alluded that it's a drone. The entire procedure was to take place 35 kilometers above the ground after a peaceful ride to that altitude via a high-altitude balloon.
Stop putting rockets on balloons, bro. Oh my god, dude. The next person to email me and say, why haven't you just decided to put your rocket on a balloon? You can get so much more performance. We need that soundboard. And I need maybe we should figure out how spicy we want this podcast to be. Don't do it, okay? That's my advice. I'm such a raccoon hater.
That was a perfect reaction because I strategically waited to mention till now that the company was originally called BPS.space. Any guesses as to why they might have changed it?
Well, okay, BPS.space sounds like you're going to make all of space the moon, but also I know Google had a project called Project Loon, which, to their credit, I don't know if you know about this. Do you know about Project Loon?
I don't.
All right. So Google had this project. I think the idea was, very pre-Starlink. Instead of doing internet satellites, you do internet like balloons. And so you put a bunch of balloons up over an area, or maybe you do communications for like an emergency situation. You have a natural disaster and you need really good communication across that area where the cell towers are down. So you put a bunch of these like radios on balloons. And then you think, well, you can't really control the position of a balloon, right?
Right.
Wrong. Google made it work. Project Loon, Loon. You can steer a balloon by going up and down and like selectively picking which airstreams you're in. And so you have to be like really loose on how steerable the balloon is. Excuse me, dude, I should not have eaten an entire pizza right before this. But you can steer a balloon by going up and down. So that's a tangent. I hate when people try to put rockets on balloons because it's an inherently uncontrolled system. Like, so much as you can control it, it's also just like a balloon with explosives tied to it.
Yeah, I see a lot of people when they all land on the idea are kind of like, then it doesn't matter the conditions of your launch day because you'll be above it. I'm like, well,
sure.
But balloons like really react to wind.
Have you ever seen someone like the question to ask then is like, have you ever watched someone launch a balloon in more than 5 miles an hour of wind? Because once you've seen it, like maybe even 10 miles an hour, it's not a process where you'd be like, yep, all right, let's just put this rocket motor with an igniter inside in there.
Yeah, perfect. What could go wrong? Well, we'll get into that later. But
okay.
I'm actually did a little bit of a deep dive for those not familiar. You already said the word, and it is, I will admit, one of my favorite unironic terms in the entirety of space exploration, raccoon. Because the first time I heard someone say it, I thought it was just somebody like making a meme. But no, that's like generally accepted as a real thing.
Yep.
So, let's talk about that for a second. Raccoons first came to be in the 1950s when space scientist James Van Allen sought to put rockets into space to study Earth's radiation belt without the difficulty of that whole low atmosphere gravity situation we just talked about.
Yeah, that whole thing.
A balloon requires far less energy and money to get high into the atmosphere. I know it sounds like I'm justifying it, Joe. I'm sorry. I didn't realize
go ahead,
you
sell
were
it to me,
so heated. Yeah, balloons are cheaper than rockets is the general idea, right?
I've always said that.
I've believed that to my core from the very beginning. Well, in 1952, Van Allen and his team from the University of Iowa launched a balloon. Iowa? I can't talk. Iowa. the corn one. Yeah. I'm from the potato one. That's Idaho.
I get those mixed up all the time.
People actually legitimately do. I used to sell stickers that were the shape of Idaho that said Iowa in them. It was a good time.
Nice.
The The University of Iowa launched a balloon to 70,000 feet, or about 21.3 meters, and ignited a rocket with a pressure switch that then climbed to an altitude of around 64 kilometers or 40 miles. Not quite space, but
that's pretty good.
Impressive. In 1952.
Dude, pressure switch is, I guess you got to do it some way, but man.
Yeah. That's, in the world of high-power rocketry, a lot of two-stage rockets used to use mercury switches, which...
Oh, yeah, because you like send, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like how your home thermostat works, right? Where the mercury closes a circuit at the top of a capsule.
Yep.
At deceleration from the end of the first boost.
Right.
Yeah.
Or while you're tilting it up on the pad sometimes. That did happen a number of times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the preferred method today or really back then, but it was available.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so worked out pretty okay. The Loki rocket family had a Raccoon variant that launched a handful of times between 1955 and 1957. Ultimately, though, as we know, sounding rockets kind of became the go-to way to handle things in the 1960s. Or late 50s, I guess. They kind of dialed it in. And it's really interesting that sounding rocket technology kind of got to where it got in the 60s and hasn't really changed a lot.
Yeah, it's about the same. A lot of these, like the Black Brant design is pretty old.
Yeah.
And it's
Harrier booster.
Yep. It makes sense too because you make the tooling for these things once. Like they've got the mandrels, they've got the machines to make the nozzles and the casings and whatever. So like if you know how to make it and the space doesn't really need innovation, which that's, another conversation.
Right.
Yeah, I guess just keep making it. I don't think there's like a ton of money in it. I don't really know.
No, yeah, and the amount of companies that start up and try to go after the market would make you think it's like the most lucrative thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. It's a pretty limited market base.
Like, Braden, if you have an experiment and I tell you I can get you 3 minutes of microgravity, and you need to pay me several $100,000, and also your experiment might not come back, or we're just going to send it into the ocean, you're not going to be jazzed about that.
I was going to say almost guaranteed not to come back with what's available right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the alternative is you pay Blue Origin how much? Millions of dollars to put it on New Shepard?
Right. Or Up Aerospace, right? They're kind of still doing the thing.
I don't maybe conversation for another time. I don't know what Up's doing right now, but I don't think they're flying a ton.
Yeah, maybe we need an episode on Up Aerospace.
Let's do it.
Well, we're going to step more into the recent past, because I was going to say back into the future in the description, but then I was like, I kind of already alluded at the beginning of the episode that the plan was to do companies that are defunct. So spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Space Ride's gone. But they did see the Raccoon glory and thought, there must be no reason nobody's doing that anymore. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And they actually had some pretty good momentum. In 2019, they did a seed funding round and they attracted a bunch of big venture capitalists and some pretty big individual investors. I couldn't find a exactly definitive number, but it says they raised around $10 million.
God, if I could get, can we hit pause? If I could get $10 million to pursue a terrible idea, I guess I would also do it. But that's crazy. You should need to prove the concept first, and you can prove the concept, dude. You can do this and prove it out at like a small scale for $2,000.
Oh yeah, and we'll get there. But it is interesting. Like the investors are listed, and it's kind of the same thing with every space startup. You're like, what is this company? Who are these people?
Yeah.
And why are they just throwing around $10 million like it's $50?
Yeah.
But you make a good point. Maybe we should have a space startup.
But we can't just